Welcome to Art. It's nice to speak to all of you. Now today you're going to be starting a new unit on abstract art. This will continue to year 11, so it's a fresh start for all of you and it will really prepare you well for September. So first of all, today you're going to be writing a formal art analysis. First, we are going to go over some key information and I'll show you how to write the analysis. You'll have to submit your written work on WeDoc the way you've been submitting the rest of your work. First of all, we are going to look at the word abstract. So abstract is often used in many different ways, but in art we talk about things that don't look like anything. So the definition I have for you here is abstract art is art that does not attempt to look like something realistic, but communicates using shapes, colors, and textures. So you can see the work here, you can't tell what the picture is immediately. Now the photographer we're going to start looking at is Siskind. He was a famous photographer who looked at the details of different things, and this made it look abstract because you can't tell immediately what the object is you're looking at. So you have some examples of his work here. Volcano, New York, Bark, and Jerome, Arizona. They're all black and white pictures and they're all very zoomed in. So we're going to start by looking at the Jerome, Arizona piece of artwork. And this will be the piece of work that we will focus our analysis task on. Here is an image of the artwork in more detail, and I'm now going to show you an example of a good analysis task and introduce the work we're going to do today. Here you can see an analysis task. This is not for the same artwork, but it gives you a good idea of how much depth you need to go into. Now analysis tasks are split into 4 different key sections: description, analysis, interpretation, and judgment. Today you'll be doing description and analysis, and next week you'll be doing interpretation and judgment. So the first thing you need to do when you look at any piece of artwork is describe it. We'll go into looking at Siskind's work in a moment, but before we move on, I want you to look carefully at the details given here in this piece. Now I will upload this to WeDoc if you want to have a read through that. You can use this as an example for the depth and the details that you need to include. What's also really useful in this worksheet are these questions. Well, I'll have this available when we move on to the next part. It's just a really useful guide if you're feeling a little bit stuck. So you've seen this sheet before, as we've used this before in our lessons to analyze our work. The same concept here, we're going to do the same thing. So first of all, we go back to our piece of artwork here on the screen. We can see, and just look carefully at the details that are in the piece. So you might want to pause this here and keep referring back to this image when you're doing your written task. Right, so for the describe part, you need to describe the artwork. So you're not going to explain what you think about it, why the artist has done it. You are just describing what you can see. So first of all, the artwork is called Jerome, Arizona. It's a photograph. And when I look at the artwork, I can see that it is paint peeling from a wall. The angle of the camera is pointing upwards and the image is zoomed in. I'm being a little bit stuck for detail, so I'm going to go back to the slide here, and you can see I have the formal elements listed here. So this can always give you a guide of different things you might want to include in your analysis. So if I look at line, I can see there's actually a lot of small line details here in the image. So I'm going to write down, there are small fragments of line. Now the next one there is tone. The tone is actually very highly contrasted, so I will write that down. Shape. A bit tricky, but because the image is very highly contrasted, the peeled paints kind of make their own shapes, so I'm going to try and write that as well, because of the high contrast, the shapes made paint are very defined. The image is black and white, and the texture looks dry. So as you can see, that's quite rough. Now, after we do the bullet points, the next step will be to write out this information in full paragraphs. So I'm going to pause. I want you to pause this now and do the describe part for your analysis. You might have some of the same details that I have there, or you might find some of your own. When you're done with that, unpause it, and I'll go over the analyze section with you. Okay, for the analyze section, it is a little bit difficult. So looking at this sheet, you want to be able to describe why the things in the description create any artistic effect. So what colors are used? Do they create any effects to the piece? I find it useful to think of the word because. So if I start with because, I'm already using analytical language. You're explaining why the artist has used these different skills. I would really recommend you read the example here to help guide your answers, just with the idea of what analysis is. Okay, so for my analysis, I'll start with because. The image is zoomed in. The viewer can see more details usual. Because of this composition, the highly contrasted colors, the interesting shapes, it looks abstract. I can't really tell what it is. Let's see, what else can I say? Now if I look at the dark colors in the image, I can see it's more dark on the lower end, and because it's getting less and less dark as it goes upwards, the viewer is directed to kind of look upwards. So I'm going to write about that. More dark paint appealing on the lower side of the image, directing the viewer's gaze upwards. And in my opinion, I think this makes it look like a bit of a landscape because your vision's being guided upwards. So I'm going to write, this makes it look like a landscape. Let's see, you want more details? I want to kind of write something about how it looks quite abstract because I can't see what it is. So, let's see. Because all the features are exaggerated, highly contrasted colors, colors zoomed in, composition, the viewer can use more imagination when looking at the work. When looking at the work. Okay, so there you can see I've done my bullet points for my step 1 and step 2. I'd like for you to pause and finish writing your step 2. And once you've done that, press play again and we'll go over the next step of what you need to do. Okay, so these sections are quite rough drafts. Now you need to go into any kind of word formatting or even on this paper and write out your answers. So here we can see I've typed up my bullet points into paragraphs, and if you want to, you can pause and read through my written answers there. If we go back to my example, you can see I've turned my bullet points into full sentences, and I've added some more details into my written answer. So if you come up with something else while you're writing, you can always add that in as you go on in the next stage. So I need you to submit your version of your describe and analysis section on WeDuck, following the same system we've been doing before. So your describe and your analysis tasks. If you have any questions, message your teacher on WeDuck. We are here to help you. I know it's a little bit confusing, but with the sheets in the video, you should be able to do the work really successfully. And if you're stuck, just let us know.